So, as for the question, would I recommend the book? Absolutely. I think for anyone who liked Holly Jackson's A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but wanted a little bit more drama and likes multiple POVs and a sprinkling of romance, then I would definitely recommend. Hi everyone, my name is Tara Westwell and today is Tuesday, which means it's time to discuss our Panic at the Book Club book of the week, which is One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus. If you like romance, fantasy, or even thriller, basically anything fiction book related, then I suggest you head on over to the channel's intro video, where you can find out more information on how you can take part in this online book club. We announce books at least 4 weeks in advance, and we accept your bookish feedback in a wide manner of ways. Post your comment below a video, send in a voice note, or even send me a short video clip of you discussing the book. Alternatively, you can just send me a direct message. 5 students go to detention, and only 4 leave alive. Yale hopeful Bronwyn has never publicly broken a rule. Sports star Cooper only knows what he's doing in the baseball diamond. Bad boy Nate is one misstep away from a life of crime. Prom queen Addie is holding together the cracks of her perfect life. And outsider Simon, creator of the gossip app of Bayview High, won't ever talk about any of them again. He dies 24 hours before he can post any of their deepest secrets online. Investigators conclude that it was no accident, and they're all suspects. Everyone has secrets, right? What matters is how far you'll go to protect them. This is a spoiler-free part where first we'll discuss any spoiler-free points before moving on to a clearly marked section of the video which will contain spoilers and more specifics about the book. As always, let's start with those chapter lengths. They were kind of the ideal 10 to 15 pages, but what I will say is that the book was multiple POV, and it would actually switch whose character we were reading from mid-chapter. And because the book was in first person, I'd sometimes have to go back and just double check exactly whose perspective we were reading from. I mean, at this point, it's no secret that I usually prefer a single point of view, but if there are multiple perspectives, I really prefer that the author write them as separate chapters as well. I don't really care how small it makes the chapter either. I just think that if we're now following someone else, that it should have a fresh chapter, even if it does relate to what was going on. It did take a little while for me to get into the book. I mean, things kicked off pretty quickly and I was interested in what was happening. It's just that I kept forgetting who was who, and I had to keep reminding myself that, okay, right, Bronwyn is the nerdy one. Like, you essentially had the nerdy girl, the pretty popular girl, the jock, and of course the bad boy. So although that formula wasn't exactly new and unique, nor was it a particularly difficult concept, it was more about connecting the names and the characteristics and the secrets with the right individuals. Once I did, it was a really easy read and I got a lot more invested. Like, I wanted to know the answer to the classic question of who done it, but I also got really attached to the characters and what was going on in their individual lives. It was just as much character driven as it was plot driven, although I do have to admit that I had my favourites I was rooting for. There were parts of the plot that I didn't really find too surprising, but there were also parts that I weren't expecting at all. We had loads of red herrings and so many theories, but it was really nice to see how it all came together in the end. If I had to compare this to any other book, it would probably be something like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, but mixed with maybe something with a little bit more high school drama like Pretty Little Liars. It also kind of reminds me a little bit of Tag You're Dead by Catherine Foxfield. They all just kind of end up having this young adult / teen crime murder investigation thing going on with a lot of unexpected twists throughout. Now moving on to that part of the video, I suggest if you haven't read this book yet, go do that first, because beyond this point there'll definitely be spoilers. For me, the elephant in the room is that it took way too long to even entertain the idea that maybe Simon had unalived himself. If it was real, would it be something that I would even consider? I honestly can't say, but as the reader, I just thought it was frustratingly clear. Like, it got to a point where they were discussing, well, if the four of us didn't do it, then who else had opportunity? And they briefly thought that perhaps there was this elaborate plan to distract them for long enough looking out of the window so that someone could sneak in and do something unnoticed. But him doing it himself never even crossed their minds. But maybe it's just the effect of knowing I'm reading a book. Like, even though it might be something that seems dramatic, I know as a reader that it's a possible plot twist, even though it's not something that I would necessarily consider in real life. I was rooting for Bronwyn and Nate the whole time. I loved that there was a bit of romance added into the mix, but I could have done without the whole rushed will they, won't they ending. Like, the book is primarily a YA thriller with a sprinkling of romance, but for some reason the author felt like they needed to fit a whole damn romance plot right at the end. Like, it just felt really unnecessary. The characters should have just either stayed together or had a very disappointing split. Like, if the author wanted the characters to have a more dynamic will they, won't they second chance trope, then I think they should have added it in more as a part of the book than just slapping it on at the end. I don't know. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion. I liked the characters, I liked the relationship, and I was really rooting for them. It just wasn't my favourite way of incorporating it into the book because it just didn't really feel like it was a part of the book. Bronwyn's a force of nature when she wants to be, and her persistence to find the truth really reminded me of Pip's character from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I'm quite proud of Addie and Cooper as characters. I mean, they developed so much throughout the book and really started to stick up for who they were. Both Addie's mum and Cooper's dad were absolutely horrible, and although they didn't fully overcome that, they certainly took the first steps, which really helped their characters grow. I was a little torn when it came to Cooper's narrative, just because his secret being about his sexuality just felt very early 2000s in its writing. I mean, I think it can be a very difficult subject for multiple reasons. I mean, the implication that someone's sexuality being outed is still a suitable plot twist is very questionable, but also the fact that it seems to imply that it's a secret that's worth unaliving someone for. I guess it could just be a little bit triggering, but at the same time, it is important to have that representation. And while the world may be a little bit more accepting now than it used to be, I think it's still really important to have representation of the LGBTQ community in all walks of life. I think some of the characters' reasons for not telling people were realistic. Unfortunately, I also think so were some of the reactions that he got. I wasn't completely surprised by the ending, although I was quite shocked with just how much of a terrible person Jake was. The book did leave some pretty obvious clues that perhaps Janae and Jake were involved somehow. I just wasn't expecting Jake to be involved at that extent. I was mostly expecting it to be Janae and maybe Jake as a villainous side character. However, he really stole the show. I even felt a little bad for Janae in the end. Not for Jake though, because the power went straight to his head. Poor Nate only got framed because Simon got rejected, and yet he got some of the worst of it. The end might not have been the most shocking, but it was tense and I really did enjoy it. So, as for the question, would I recommend the book? Absolutely. I think for anyone who liked Holly Jackson's A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but wanted a little bit more drama and likes multiple POVs and a sprinkling of romance, then I would definitely recommend. It is YA, so it's not all that dark, but it was easy, fast paced, and tense, and it was really fun to try and theorise who may have done it. So, will I be reading any more from Karen McManus? I know that this book is part of a trilogy. I have no idea where the books are going to go from there, but I'm certainly intrigued enough to find out. Well, let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book? Next week, we're discussing Hooked by Emily McIntire, so don't forget to get your comments and thoughts in by Monday, the 16th of September at the latest to be a part of the discussion. You can now do this on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram. The following week will be The Silent Patient, but don't forget if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, we do now list the next 4 books down below, along with the discussion dates. That way you can choose the genre that best suits you, and the best time frame to read it in. Thank you all for joining, and if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's always appreciated, and I will see you next week. Bye.